So, a little thought I wanted to share with you with the radical proposals being made by Trump. Radical in the sense that they go against conventional thinking and wisdom, but I think represents a lot of common sense by just a basic study of history. And one thing that a lot of people have been saying is that Trump is, in some ways, showing more friendship and support of the Jews since a name that keeps coming up is Cyrus the Great. And I want to tell you a bit about who Cyrus the Great was and why are people making this connection? Because it's maybe there's something to it, is perhaps all I'll say. It's interesting that right now, actually, we're about to approach the Jewish festival of Purim, which was centered around this time at which we had these Persian kings ruling, including Cyrus, and the Jewish people were in exile. And Cyrus allowed them to return to their homeland and rebuild the temple. Now, let's just understand the timeline. So Cyrus was the Persian king who conquered Babylon. He issues the Cyrus decree, which allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their first temple. And the second temple was eventually started during his reign, but it wasn't completed immediately. And then we have the reign of Ahasuerus, who is traditionally identified as Xerxes the First of Persia. He is the king in the Purim story. The Purim story occurs during his reign and his opposition. He has opposition to the rebuilding of the second temple. And Ahasuerus is seen as being ruling after the reign of Cyrus, meaning he came after the initial decree for rebuilding the temple. And then we had Darius, or Darius the First, after him, who reaffirmed Cyrus's decree and allowed the temple to be completed. Now, I just find it interesting timing that we're seeing this move happening now at a time at which the Purim story comes into focus, because at the end of the Purim story, afterwards, once the Jews are saved from a Persian tyrant, Haman, that tries to annihilate them, they then are able to return to their land and rebuild the temple, the second temple. And it's just interesting timing, isn't it, that we're coming up to Purim pretty shortly. And Trump is showing a similar kind of willingness to go against the status quo, to be bold in standing up for the rights of the Jewish people. And what he's done by saying we need to relocate the people of Gaza is to simply recognize a truth that people simply do not wish to acknowledge, which is that the Palestinian cause is based on ideological Jew hatred. It is not based on a legitimate desire for self-determination of a unique nation. They consider themselves Arabs. They'd be happy to be part of another Arab country. They just don't want the Jewish state there. Why? Because it goes against their notion of Islamic domination of the world, which is what they expect to happen. And if the Jewish people return to their land and re-establish sovereignty, it implies that maybe their vision for how the world will unfold is wrong. It's very threatening. So they have to instead look at Israel as this test from God that they have to get rid of. And I want to read to you the words of Melanie Phillips. Let me just see if I can get it up here, because I was reading this in her book, her new book, where she wrote, it's called The Builder's Stone, and it's about how Jews and Christians built the West and why only they can save it. And I'm actually going to be interviewing her in a few weeks. But what Melanie said was that basically October 7th, trying to see if I can find it now. Let's see. I'm going to pause this for a second so I don't bore you. Okay, got it. She said, although many non-Muslims have been joining in the demonstrations, the pro-Palestinian anti-Israel movement that took to the streets in the West has been led by gloating, Hamas-supporting Muslims. They believed that a starting gun had been fired for the final battle in their apocalyptic war to destroy not only Israel, but also the rest of the non-Muslim world. That's why they were so excited by October 7th. Their thinking went like this: we've broken through Israeli defences. They are no longer secure against us. We've killed them. We've seized them. They've never thought we would do that. Nobody thought we'd do that. We didn't think we'd do it, but we've done it. We're on our way now to destroy Israel. We're on our way now to destroy the Jewish people, and behind the destruction of Israel and the Jewish people lies the West. The West is now open for us to conquer. So she understands that that's what's really going on here. And I suspect Trump understands that too. He understands there's an ideological hatred that lies at the root of the Palestinian cause, and therefore, seeing as a Palestinian state will simply just lead to more death, terrorism, and destruction, the only solution that can make sense is relocation of people who consider themselves Arabs to the Arab world. They've had 100 years of being offered alternatives, being offered states, and they've said no time and again. But what Trump has shown, just like Cyrus did, is a willingness to stand up and shake the status quo in order to do what is actually true, just, and best for all parties.
Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.